This is Gotham TV Podcast, episode 73, looking at Gotham, season 2, episode 21, A Legion of Horribles.
Hey, this is Drew Powell. I play Butch Gilzean on Gotham, and you are listening to Gotham TV Podcast.
Good morning, Gothamites. Welcome to the Morning Orange Juice, detectives. This is GTVP episode 73, and we are looking at A Legion of Horribles in the mirror this morning as we are early to rise.
Yes.
To record our podcast on this episode 21 of Gotham, A Legion of Horribles. I am one of your Sandman hosts, John.
I'm one of your other hosts, Derek. Or I am your other host, Derek. It is the morning of the 7th of June, a day after the episode premiered on the UK on Channel 5. And we're recording very early in the morning to try and fit this in before I fly over to London for the Channel 5 event showing the season finale of Gotham.
Yeah, you lucky get.
I know. I feel it's a bit disappointed that both of us can't make it over for this one, but it's going to be really exciting. Really looking forward to it. We've got Sean Pertwee, we've got Robin Lord Taylor, and we have Corey Michael Smith, who I haven't actually met before. I've met the other two at roundtables at New York Comic Con, and we've done our podcast, as you know, our interview with Sean Pertwee directly, which was great fun. So
yeah, absolutely.
Really looking forward to catching up with the two of them. And really, Corey Michael Smith has been one of my favorite actors on the show since it began. I'm really looking forward to meeting him.
Absolutely fantastic. Yeah, I met Corey Michael Smith and Robin Lord Taylor together at New York Comic Con last year in 2015. So yeah, you should have a ball. Jealous.
Should be great fun. Yeah, that kicks off tonight at about 7 o'clock. So I will probably be tweeting out throughout the day, but I won't be obviously spoiling anything for anybody who hasn't seen the finale episode, including John, who won't be able to see it till next week. But we are also travelling over to the UK to Blackpool for the Ultimates.
Yeah, we will be rocking out in Blackpool with the Star Fury Ultimates convention, which has both Gotham and, of course, some other TV shows there as well. But from Gotham, it will be Selina Kyle, obviously played by Cameron Beacon Dover. There will be Butch Gilzean, played by Drew Powell, and
Butch
of course Oswald Cobblepot, played by Robin Lord Taylor. All there enjoying the bracing seaside air of Blackpool. No doubt we will have to take some Blackpool rock for them to sink their teeth into.
Absolutely. I'm not sure whether I would ever had that to anybody, but I'm looking forward to getting to Blackpool. It's my first time.
It's a Marmite seaside town. I would say you love it or you hate it.
And since I hate Marmite, maybe not for me, but I'm looking forward to it. It should be good fun.
It'll be good fun.
Yeah, and we're getting to meet some of the other Gothamites up there. We're getting to get to catch up with some of our friends who've been listening to the show and following it for the last couple of years, which should be great fun. And loads of other Gothamites. There's a couple hundred people going, so it'll be really exciting to get to meet all of them while we're up in Blackpool.
Absolutely. So there is a lot of Gotham stuff going on in the next week. And of course, you can listen to all of that here on our podcast. Just go to gothamtvpodcast.com/iTunes, subscribe there, leave a review. It'd be most appreciated. And of course, if you are not an iTunes person, you can go to any other good podcast catcher and just search and subscribe to Gotham TV Podcast. Of course, as well, we will be live tweeting final episodes of Gotham on our Twitter handle at Gotham TV Podcast. And of course, any discussions about the episode you can do within our Facebook group. Just go to facebook.com/groups/Gotham TV Podcast and join ourselves and the rest of the Gotham community on Facebook at the Gotham TV Podcast group.
Absolutely. And if you want to send any thoughts about any of the episodes, you can email us at feedback@gothamtvpodcast.com. And finally, the last way to get in contact with us, if you want to send some audio feedback to us, just go to our website, gothamtvpodcast.com, and press the send voicemail button. You can record any of your thoughts about the episodes and we will share them on the show. Looking forward to it, I think.
Absolutely.
This is going to be a fun one to talk about, I think. We are into the penultimate episode of Gotham. Tons going on this time, I think.
Loads. I mean, really a lot going on. And again, I think something that Gotham does really well, all this kind of massive mishmash and mix of different storylines, different characters, absolutely frenetic as always.
Yeah.
But I think, Derek, what are some of the case notes for this episode.
Crazy and fun. Really enjoyed
Crazy
it.
case notes.
Yeah. So the episode was directed by Rob Bailey, who's done 2 episodes of Gotham before. He did The Penguin's Umbrella and Knock Knock. 2 really good episodes of Gotham.
Yeah, absolutely.
And the episode was written by Jordan Harper, who's done 3 episodes of Gotham. He did the penultimate episode of season 1, The Anvil and the Hammer. He did Scarification and Ball of Mud and Meanness. 3 of our favourite names for episodes, I think, for them so far in the season. Really did a good job in this one as well. Do you want to tell us what he gave us, John?
Certainly. Selina manages to pounce out of harm's way from the goddess Firefly, her former friend Bridget Pike, and uses all her cunning to remain safe as she becomes the goddess's devoted servant. Elsewhere in Arkham, Hugo Strange continues his reanimation project at odds with his secretive backers who believe he has lost sight of the real purpose of his research, and they convene their court to close down the project. However, a successful subject is reanimated with her memories intact, reassuring the court about Strange's work. As Strange welcomes this familiar face of Fish Mooney back to Gotham, he is faced with other unwelcome guests at the gates of Arkham Asylum. Bruce and Lucius Fox, with a hidden Jim Gordon, arrive at Arkham to execute their plan to rescue Selina and to uncover the secrets of Arkham and Professor Strange. As Lucius tours Arkham and Bruce is invited to an audience with Strange, their motives are revealed and all 3 are captured. While Bruce and Lucius are interrogated by Enigma, Jim is subjected to a new experiment that has him seeing double.
What a great moment in this episode of Gotham.
Absolutely.
Had some great stuff in there as well overall. But what a great cliffhanger ending for this episode.
Yeah, really good. Proper Batman 66, I think. And actually proper comic, let's face it.
Absolutely.
Proper comic book storytelling here, and I mean in the best possible way. Just that whole thing going on, the experimentation that Strange is doing to Jim Gordon, and then obviously to Boris Karloff. As well. Yes, I'm sure that will be one of our points.
I think it might be.
But I think, Derek, what is your first point?
Well, I'm going to start right at the beginning because we had a big cliffhanger in last week's episode as well with Bridget Pike facing off against Selina Kyle. What a great little moment here. I love that the camera doesn't actually show Selina escaping from Bridget, but it's kind of to be thought that she is dancing and prancing around like a cat, jumping all over the place to avoid being burnt by Bridget. There's some great shots of Selina Kyle as she swings around a pole and gets back down to the ground and climbs around all the catwalks around. It really reminded me again of the Arkham City games where you control Selina Kyle's character, Catwoman, as she pounces and prances around like a cat. I thought it was a really good moment to show Selina getting away from Bridget. That was quite cool. But importantly, we have another member of the Arkham Asylum inmates who has been imprinted with a new persona here with Bridget Pike. Really intriguing. I wonder if Professor Strange has been watching Game of Thrones, maybe? Since Bridget is now sacrificing her victims to the goddess of fire, saying that this is a purification of her victims. I think that's a really interesting idea, very different for this character. She was a pretty private kind of girl who enjoyed the fire, enjoyed that kind of element. She was a very nervous kind of character in the past, and now she feels really empowered by this new persona that she has. I think that's really interesting to do for her.
Yeah, and I mean, she gets lit up herself by Selina and survives it, both through a combination of her new suit that she's got, but also I wonder if she's got some kind of other sort of species DNA in her, like a lot of the other people here, that is helping her resist being burnt. I really liked how she kind of walked all fully alight after Selina's torched her, basically, and set her alight. I loved how she kind of walks towards her and it all fizzles out. Really good. And as you say, the whole prancing and pouncing around the room as Bridget is firing her weapon, really good. Yeah. I just thought it was really well shot. I really liked it.
I also loved
definitely.
I also loved the line from Selina. Looks like someone's really scrambled your eggs. That was really good fun. But yeah, so no saving from Professor Strange here. He walked away and said, "Had fun there" to Firefly. Expecting her to kill Selina, and Selina's only way out here is once again to team up with the villain. Kind of seems to be Selina's kind of modus operandi to make sure that she serves herself and gets out of any situation. She's willing to work with Bridget Pike. You can't you can't do this without having a servant, essentially. So she becomes the servant of Firefly. Quite cool.
Yeah, I mean, she uses all her cunning here to really just get herself out of a difficult situation. And I mean, that is perfect Selena Kyle. You know, she really talks her way out of things. She really is duplicitous, and really works the audience, so to speak, as to get out of sticky situations. And I love that. That's so true to her character.
Definitely.
Really good, yeah.
Definitely. John, do you want to give us your first point?
I do. I am going in with a biggie. We have talked about this a few times. And we see here Hugo Strange's secret backers with a distinctive mask and the assembling of a court. And I think here we have, I know we have the Court of Owls, which is hugely cool. I mean, in many respects, it's something that we thought the Order of Saint Dumas kind of had. They were a sort of court of some description, kind of standing in for this. But from the graphic novels, the Court of Owls are this very, very secretive organization. I mean, hardly even known, if at all. It's only their assassin Talon that would come out to get rid of anyone that stands in their way. But
yes,
we have here this court revealed for the first time, a woman with her voice modulated and then wearing the mask, which was so cool. So here we have Hugo Strange working for the Court of Owls. And yes, they weren't too pleased with his experiments running amok in Gotham.
Yeah.
They thought he had lost control. But ultimately, the reanimation of Fish Mooney, which I'm sure will be another huge point for this episode, really persuaded them that his work was fine. And then they start to say to dismantle Indian Hill and move to upstate to a new facility. And the reason they find that Fish Mooney's reanimation is so much more successful is because she remembers her previous history, her past. The memories are intact.
Yes, absolutely. So this is, so for non-comic book readers, The Court of Owls was created by Scott Snyder quite recently, actually, within the last 4 or 5 years. But effectively, the idea of them is that they've been behind everything for decades and centuries, in Gotham. They're the upper echelon of society within the city of Gotham, hidden completely. So nobody knows who the members are at all. Very distinct, masks that they have on their face. You can tell the owl. One of the most interesting things about it was I read a great interview with Scott Snyder as he was talking about this and creating these as villains, and he was kind of going, over the course of 75 years of history of Batman, they've never had one big enemy of Batman. And who's more of an enemy of the bats than owls are? Quite interesting that had never been thought of before. There'd never been an owl type of enemy for the Batman. So quite cool that obviously in the natural world they are enemies.
The owl is the big predator of the bats.
Exactly. So love this kind of idea. But one of the elements of those But one of the elements of the Court of Owls, obviously, as John mentioned, is the Talon, who's their assassin, who does get reincarnated with the memory of who to destroy, who his targets are effectively. So even if he gets killed, he can be reanimated. There'll be another Talon who will come back and carry on with the mission. So effectively an unstoppable assassin who will always know who his previous target was, even if he gets taken out. Quite cool, and love that they're bringing it into the show.
Definitely. And I mean, it really is probably just an absolute flavour of the Court of Owls, and that this maybe really sets up some further influence then in season 3. But this is, I mean, so late in the day, this is really just a nice cheeky flavour being thrown in for the audience and for comic book readers and non-comic book readers alike. Just really nice little nod here. But it's something that we had thought could be introduced in this show that would really be a nice aspect to all the things going on against Bruce Wayne and at least his father and mother and involved in their murders.
Absolutely. What I kind of want, though, is that if they do get defeated in their plan, I'm hoping that they just go back into hiding. They're not fully defeated. They're not fully found out, because they do play a big part later on in Batman. And you don't want these kind of characters to just go away completely, but it's cool that they're being introduced. They've been around for centuries, so they need to be somewhere in the city. So I like the idea that they've been introduced this way. What I also like about them is that they did call out Hugo Strange for doing some crazy things like releasing Barbara Keane back into the city, releasing Oswald Cobblepot back into the city, and obviously releasing Mayor Galavan back into the city of Gotham. All of these things probably go quite contrary to the Court of Owl's plan. He's shining a light on what's going on in Indian Hill. So they're obviously pretty unhappy with Hugo Strange.
Absolutely.
Yeah. But that was my second point as well. The Court of Owls.
Yeah. So Derek, what's your third point?
My third point is the return of Fish Mooney. Come on. This is very, very cool. We kind of had thought about it in season 1 after she'd been unceremoniously knocked off the top of the roof by the new king of Gotham. We'd thought about it that she's going into the water of the river of Gotham, so perhaps she's not even dead. It is confirmed here that she has died, which is the first time we've heard that confirmation as such. We always thought that maybe she just got
swam
out of the
away
water.
like a fish.
Exactly. But they do confirm that that's what's happened to her. She has died. They saved her. They brought her back to Indian Hill, and they've now reincarnated her with slicing in some cuttlefish genes, which I thought was quite interesting because I know this is a really weird connection, but hey, it's an interesting one. B.D. Wong was also in Jurassic World, John, and one of the big things that they did to the genetically modified dinosaur in there was splice in cuttlefish genes.
Yes,
I thought it was quite interesting that his character would be splicing in some cuttlefish genes in this episode as well.
They have created Fish Rex.
Absolutely, yeah. And the huge thing is now, we also have a superpowered Fish Mooney. She's able to control other people with just a touch. Very interesting that she did get to touch that guard, and all she really got out of him was a cheese sandwich, which I thought was...
She invented the most successful cheese toasted sandwich maker ever.
Just touch your guard and tell them exactly what you want. Quite cool. We do it on the show over another podcast, Defenders TV podcast. We cover Jessica Jones on there, which also has a character in it called Kilgrave who can control people's minds. I wonder will they go down that path with Fish Mooney where she's able to control anybody around her. I wonder how much they'll use that ability to control things around her.
What I really liked about this was, yes, it's super powered, but is it a new or is it an enhanced power? Because in season 1, Fish Mooney's power was always one that she could really sort of lock into what people's motives and control them. That was kind of that was the description of Fish Mooney.
That's true.
That she could be influential and really bend people to her will, to follow her, and to effectively control them through persuasion. And here we have now that this is a more direct form of that power, where if she touches them and makes a request, there's some kind of glowiness that goes on, and then ping, you get a grilled cheese sandwich. I mean, you get whatever she's requested.
She'll just be asking everyone in Gotham for grilled cheese sandwiches from now on.
Exactly. So I really like this.
Maybe actually we're overreading the power. Maybe that's all the power is. It's that she can get anybody to make her a grilled cheese sandwich.
Maybe.
She can't ask for anything else. Only grilled cheese sandwiches.
But I love the fact that they've kind of taken that description from season 1, which wasn't super powered in any way, and now she's come through this resurrection process, and it is an enhanced power or a superpower. So really cool.
And it's great to see her back. In the first season, I think there was a lot of criticism of Jada Pinkett Smith's character because she was so over the top at times. She's she stood out quite significantly against characters like Maroni and Falcone. She stood out quite significantly playing against them in season 1. In this season, she's not going to stand out much at all. When you have Oswald Cobblepot the way he is now, as opposed to season 1,
you've got Mr. Freeze
behind the scenes a lot in season 1. Yeah, you've got Mr. Freeze, you've got obviously Enigma now coming to the fore. A lot of characters are going to be playing off against her that now have much bigger personalities than they did in season 1. So while she's going to stand out, don't get me wrong, Jada Pinkett Smith couldn't not stand out in a crowd of people. She's not going to seem as unusual a character, considering everything else that's going on.
And she rocked a really good kind of cuttlefish looking, kind of that silvery, shimmery suit as well. So it was really cool.
Yeah, it was deadly. And did you notice the nails are back as well? They always say that after a person dies, the nails continue to grow. Yeah, she's definitely had someone taking care of those nails for her while she's been waiting to be reanimated.
Most definitely. And we've got the great blue eye as well, from the Dollmaker. So that's still, so really fantastic.
Yeah. Welcome back, Jada Pinkett Smith.
Exactly.
John, do you want to take us on to your next point?
Yeah, and it's welcome to the new Clayface. Oh,
yes.
My goodness. I thought this was done really, really well. Again, I understood that he had spliced octopus DNA into Boris Karloff. I thought I caught that. I'm not entirely sure. I might be wrong, but I love that Clayface is born here again, resurrected, being manipulated whilst in stasis, and I just think a really good way of introducing a character that you kind of go, well, how are they going to do this?
Yeah.
And it's just got this kind of plasticky, stretchy, skin that can be molded to any description when you have then the helmet. And I loved that at the end. It was just so very, very cool. It also contrasted nicely with Fish Mooney, where she had her memories intact. You see on the first introduction of Clayface, he's going, what happened to me? You know, he's screaming out, what has happened to me? Where have I been?
Oh, the horror on his face is fantastic.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I love the eyes as well, the white with just the little black dots in the middle. Really cool. And again, just at the end where he turns into Jim's doppelganger through the helmet, you know, and it's just so fantastic. I really liked it. I just thought it was so great that, you know, just the voice so different from Jim, but he's there. And of course you have the seamless wig moment as well.
that is the first Batman 66 moment of the episode, I think.
It was so,
I couldn't stop laughing.
Good. The absolute, you can't tell that there's been a switch whatsoever. The most seamless of wig switches.
Oh, that was hilarious. I really couldn't stop laughing when I saw that. It was brilliant.
And I do feel sorry as well for poor Ben McKenzie, who obviously had his the skull cap on to make him bald. But it looked like his forehead was about 30 centimeters high because he obviously packing so much hair underneath the skull cap. But yeah, seamless transition.
That's our little egghead shout out, I think.
It is. It really is.
For the episode, yeah. Very interesting. Yeah, I think they've kept the character of Boris quite close to the comic book version of Clayface, that he is an actor and is a very good actor, a very kind of able to manipulate himself into whatever part he's able to play. So I like that they kept that part of his development as a character. I like that they kept that. Obviously, this is no connection to the creation of Clayface in the comic book. This is not created by Professor Strange. But I do like the touches and the little nods to the comic book version of the character.
Definitely.
So really looking forward to seeing how this plays out next episode. Now that we have an evil Jim Gordon, really, really interesting idea. Will anybody notice the difference? As the GCPD arrive, we're now going to have an evil Jim Gordon able to dissuade them from coming on the property. That's quite an interesting idea.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, will they be able to spot that there is this switch being done? It certainly won't come from the wig.
Absolutely. Oh, it's quality.
So do we have our Batman 66 moments as well there? I think we do.
Well, the other Batman 66 moment, that is definitely one of them with the wig. The other Batman 66 moment I want to actually give to Natalie, who sent in an email to us about this episode. And I really want to say she says it better than I would have, and I didn't want to steal the point from her because I think it's a really good one. She says, having grown up on Batman 66 reruns, I keep thinking it would be fun to mash up Gotham video clips with Batman 66 melodramatic narration, or at least something in that style. Tonight ended on a montage that was just begging for that voiceover. Bruce even finds himself in a prototypical Riddler death trap. How will our heroes save themselves or be saved? Stay tuned, Bat fans. Absolutely, Natalie, really good catch. Definitely. The final couple of moments of this episode where you have all three of our heroes in peril. You have Jim being confronted by Clayface. You have Lucius and Bruce now in a Riddler death trap. It really does beg that, same time next week, same bat time, same bat channel, wasn't it?
Yeah. Fantastic. Mm-hmm. Really good spot there, Natalie.
Thank you. And thank you for giving me my next point. Good catch, Natalie. And my next point is the Riddler trap. It's so cool to see Enigma now taking up the mantle here, and catching Lucius Fox and turtleneck, I think he calls Bruce, Bruce Wayne. A great little moment here where he's interrogating them on behalf of Hugo Strange. I actually thought he was trying to tell Hugo that he needed to be involved in the capture of Jim Gordon, so that he could play them off against the GCPD. Quite cool that it's flipped on its head here. I wasn't expecting him to be the one in control of the mic and in control of the interrogation of Bruce Wayne, but obviously he knows what's been going on with Bruce. He knows the easiest way to get to the GCPD members like Harvey and like Jim is to go after Bruce Wayne. And he has a great moment of confrontation with Lucius Fox again. We noticed when they first met a couple episodes ago, Lucius was instantly able to work out a riddle from Ed Nigma. There was a little moment shared between the two of them where he realized that Lucius is quite intelligent. And once again, he calls it out here and tells Lucius, you've always been a smart one. You realize what's going on very quickly. A nice little moment of challenge between those two characters.
Definitely. This was very cool, sort of being introduced in this way. And again, just classic Batman 66 as well, as Natalie's kind of mentioned here, you know, everyone, caught in a trap. And how do they get out of this? You know, we know.
I'm about to start singing now.
Yeah, I know the GCPD strike force is on its way. It's rushing to Arkham, but we have Lucius and Bruce really trying to get their way out of there, and we have Jim now suddenly being faced with his doppelganger. Mm-hmm. So fantastic! Can't wait to see what happens.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. John, do you want to give us your next point?
Yeah, it's the confrontation between Bruce and Hugo Strange in his office in Arkham. Again, I just thought this was absolutely standout. I mean, David Mazouz here, again, just showing how fantastic he is playing the young Bruce Wayne and how he's able to capture that angst, that anger, that kind of battle between what he is to become in Batman and still really wanting to get some kind of vengeance. I mean, as he's taken out of the office, as Hugo Strange springs his trap that captures all three of them that have infiltrated into Arkham, that kind of sort of attempt by Bruce to sort of get looser from the prison warden, from the prison guards, and go after him, just really good. The kind of pent up anger, I just thought is captured so well by David Mazouz. And I think just the cool, calm, collected tones of BD Wong's Hugo Strange is fantastic. And I loved just how he really seems to miss Thomas Wayne. There's a really great line that he uses where he goes, I like him, referring to Bruce Wayne. He reminds me of Thomas, who I miss.
Yeah.
You know, ironically, I think he finishes it off with. But I love this idea that actually Hugo Strange maybe isn't entirely bad. He was trying to warn Thomas off from going down that route because he knew who his secretive backers were. And he does the same here. And he goes that it was Thomas's actions that fired the bullet that killed him.
Yeah.
You know, a really difficult message for Bruce to kind of consume. And, you know, he's talking about that Thomas has this moral certainty, whereas Hugo deals with sort of the objective scientific rationale and is able to modify his views depending on the evidence and the data.
Yeah.
Whereas he goes, that was the difference between the two of them. And so Thomas maintained his path on this moral crusade that ultimately ended off getting him killed.
Absolutely.
And I think it's just a fantastic scene. I love the idea as well that Strange knows why Bruce is there. All this pretense at the door of Arkham as he welcomes Lucius and Bruce in is absolutely stripped back immediately when they're sat down in his office and he's pouring out the tea, you know, and he pleads with Bruce to make the choice that his father didn't, because otherwise he will end up going down the same type of route, ultimately leading to his death. And this was really, I thought, a fantastic fantastic scene.
Yeah, absolutely. It was one of my points as well. I love the response from Bruce, effectively, that my father fought and died for what he believed in, and I will do the same. Really nice idea here. We see it a little bit earlier on with the Alfred scene, Alfred and Bruce
Absolutely.
talking, where effectively Alfred just kind of goes, well, I've been trying to keep you safe for the last 2 years. That's not what Thomas would have wanted for you. You're a different person than you were when he left you behind, crying effectively and screaming in the street. You're a different person, a stronger person. What Thomas would have wanted for you was to fight for what you believe in, and now I'm going to support you in that. So that's kind of a great way in this episode that they show the growth of Bruce Wayne. Really, really great moments. And to your point about Hugo Strange, I like that he's able to justify why he is the way he is and why he's done what he's done he is kind of admitting here that he's the one behind the death of Thomas Wayne. He never actually says it. He says, what I will admit is I tried to warn him off, and by your father stopping or not stopping his investigation, he got himself killed. So that's what he's kind of saying here. He's not saying that he pulled the trigger or hired the people to kill him, or even saying that the Court of Owls did it. He's saying that if he had listened, Thomas wouldn't be dead. So he knows. I don't know whether he even knows who it actually was that killed him. I presume he does, but he hasn't actually said who it is.
Absolutely, yeah. Again, the mystery continues in that sense. Probably more than likely Court of Owls. Sending someone out to attack Thomas and Martha Wayne.
That's right.
Could it have been Talon? Is it actually that great assassin rather than Matches Malone, who Bruce met, in one of the earlier episodes? So this is really, really intriguing now as to, does the Court of Owls take responsibility for sending an assassin to attack Thomas and Martha? Yeah. Presumably, given they are so instrumental in this experimentation that Thomas Wayne seemed to be reneging against and trying to prevent in his own company, in Wayne Enterprises.
Yeah, absolutely. But another great scene. Definitely really, really enjoyed it. I can't remember whether we're on point 4 or 5 here, but my next point anyway is about Harvey Bullock being acting captain of the GCPD. A fantastic moment. Looking for Bullockisms is not difficult in this episode, really. He just has a great way about him. I love how absolutely uncomfortable he is in the role. When asked the question from the press saying, how long are you going to be captain of the GCPD? He says, literally until anyone else wants to do the job. A great little moment with Harvey.
And the meat dust one as well. It would be difficult to identify whether it was Theo Galavan or not, since he's meat dust.
Absolutely. The man is now meat dust, so positive ID is impossible. That's the other line. Yeah. It's a great moments in here. And again, you can tell there's a very different style about Harvey Bullock, where effectively he goes, I'm the captain of the GCPD when they're going into Arkham Asylum. I'm the captain of the GCPD. I can go in much better than just me and you, Alfred. We can tool up the entire team. So every single cop is now geared up with guns to go in for the final showdown in Arkham next week.
Yeah, that was one of my points. The interaction between Harvey and Alfred. Alfred's concerned that the three of them have gone off into Arkham and whether they'll be safe. And he goes, grab your gun, your badge, and your bits and bobs, so that they can go and rescue him. And you get the sort of the call to arms from Harvey Bullock, say, well, I can get the entire strike force involved here. Really, really good, I think.
Yeah. There's been many discussions about will there be a spin-off from Gotham, and I would love to see an Alfred and Harvey Bullock spin-off show where the two of them are detectives or, are they're PIs on their own while Bruce goes off to train as Batman, maybe. They just work so well together. I love Donald Logue and Sean Pertwee, obviously, and I love their interplay as characters. They just don't get enough screen time together, so it's great to see the two of them back together this time.
Definitely.
John, do you want to give us your last point?
Yep, it is. I don't know whether we've heard the name before, but Miss Peabody gets her first name.
She does, yes.
Ethel, indeed. And it's just simply that. I absolutely love Miss Peabody. She is a fantastic sidekick for Hugo Strange. I just loved how dismissive and sneering she is to Lucius Fox, while she's taking him round the asylum. I love how she is so sort of dismissive of Enigma. She holds no one in any great regard. And even Hugo Strange, she doesn't. She is always willing to question his actions. And I think that's what makes them such a fantastic team. And we find out that it's Miss E. Peabody.
Yes.
Miss Ethel Peabody. So it's great to get her first name. It really adds that extra layer. I know it sounds strange to her character just to know that she's an Ethel. It's perfect. And really good to see her again in such fine fettle in this episode of Gotham.
Yeah, it's great to see her with Lucius and him getting some stuff to do in the episode. Really, really good having him walk around with what is probably a proto-back gadget, the little pocket Geiger counter that's quite cool, little, as I say, proto-back gadget. Yeah, I love Tanya Pinkins in this show. I really think she's done a great job, a really great addition to the show in Gotham.
So, Derek, do you have any notes for this episode?
Yeah, I think that's all the points overall done. A couple of little notes. I love that Jim uses his old Arkham ID from when he was an Arkham
that
security
was very
guard.
cool.
Yeah, because there's no kind of attention paid to it. You doesn't have a moment where he says to the team, and I can get in by using my old Arkham ID badge. You know, it's just a nice little touch for the longer term viewers.
But I wonder how well it worked, since the security guy did seem to look around after him once Jim had walked into Arkham Asylum. It was like, I know you.
This place isn't that big, but it was a nice little touch.
It was.
I also love that we have a little appearance from Ivy Pepper. Very cool to have her back in the episode, Claire Foley, because I've always said, even though we don't get as much of Poison Ivy or Ivy Pepper in the show as a character like Selena Kyle, it's nice to know that she's around the city so that we just get a little ton of touches, because it just makes the city feel more alive when you have characters that just pop in for a scene here or there, just to show that they are living in a city where you can just bump into anybody any day. But what I do like about it is that she channels her inner Gandalf with the scene taken directly from Lord of the Rings, where she says, I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be. I'm not late. Nice little touch there. John, do you have any notes about the episode?
Yeah, I've got a couple of notes. One is for the a very long previously on Gotham introduction to this episode. It really did bring together an awful lot of strands, and I think that showed in the previously on Gotham intro an awful lot, going back a long way into season 2. So that was really cool. We also have the lovely scene between Enigma and Mr. Stirk in the cell, where he's got his gnashers on and he's just tied up enough so that he backs Ed into the corner, and Ed's like screaming away whilst he's trying to negotiate to help Hugo Strange and Miss Peabody to capture Jim Gordon. So I really, really like this fantastic little moment there. I wonder if we'll see any of Mr. Stirk again.
Yeah, it's interesting. I was looking up who it is the character could possibly be in the comic books. There is a supervillain called Cornelius Stirk, Mr. Cornelius Stirk, who rules by fear. Quite similar to Scarecrow. He's able to use hormones and pheromones to inject fear. In this case, he probably just uses his big pointy teeth to instill fear in his victims.
And his sizable frame, exactly.
Yeah, very cool. Great to have Fish Mooney back. Great to have Clayface in there, Mr. Stirk. So much going on in this episode.
Loads going on.
And great cliffhanger for the final episode, which I get to see tonight. I'm really looking forward to it.
Yeah, you lucky duck.
All right. John, overall, what do you think of the episode?
Really good. Again, this lead into the final episode is really just so good. I mean, I would definitely give this 4 grilled cheese sandwiches out of 5. This was so many, like, Clayface being introduced, Fish Mooney returning. You've got that great scene between Bruce and Hugo Strange. You've got Captain Harvey Bullock stepping up, sending in Strike Squad, the interaction with him and Alfred, and just seeing Firefly back, that whole scene where Selena's trying to escape from it, really, really good. And you get to top it all off, the Court of Owls being introduced as well.
Absolutely.
That's a huge thing. Really good episode. Loved it.
Definitely. I'd probably go almost to the level of 4.5 wigs out of 5.
Seamless wigs.
Seamless wigs. Great to see these characters back. I think it's actually, just a quick correction for our podcast earlier on, I think it's actually Basil Carlo in the show. It's Boris in the comic books. Which is probably why I've got the confusion there, but it is, I think, Basil in the show. So really interesting to see these characters in here. Great to get more villains in from the comic books in really interesting ways here that can be used differently to the comic books as we've seen in the show, but really interesting to see these characters back, and seeing a superpowered Fish Mooney is really intriguing.
Very intriguing.
Yes, hopefully we'll see more of her in the final episode, which we'll be talking about next week.
I know. I can't believe it. It seems such a long time since we did the first few following New York Comic Con, and we'd managed to see some of the first few episodes whilst we were over in the US.
That's right.
And then really pick it up once it started on Channel 5 in January. So we've been going a long time now with Gotham this year. So yeah, can't wait for the finale. See what surprises and delights will take place.
Yeah, totally agree. Really, really excited to see what's going to happen in the finale episode. Obviously, make sure you join us for our podcast about that. If you're not subscribed to the podcast, you can subscribe on iTunes just by going through gothamtvpodcast.com/iTunes, or pop onto any good podcast catcher, Beyond Pod, Podcast Addicts, Stitcher, any podcast catcher that has the ability to find podcasts, and just search for Gotham TV Podcast.
I think with that, on to the feedback. Remember, as always, you can send in feedback at gothamtvpodcast.com. You can also leave us a voice message if you want to leave feedback for that way. 90 seconds only, please. But you can have your dulcet tones also on our podcast and provide feedback that way as well. Just go to our website, gothamtvpodcast.com, and you'll see on the right side a little tab where you can leave your voicemail. So we have some feedback from Natalie. She goes, I like how Lucius is just as committed to the cause as the others are, in his own way. He's the suit. He's Bruce's inside man at Wayne Enterprises, tech genius, and all-around smart man. He makes a great third mentor for future Batman, not just because he knew the real Thomas Wayne, but also on his own merits. Absolutely. I think still one of my favorite scenes of this season is between Lucius and Alfred at the bar. I think it's probably episode 5 or 6 or something around there. It's certainly in the first half of the season, and quite early on in that, maybe midway through. Really good. And I completely agree. It's great to see Lucius as this third mentor in Bruce's life. Definitely.
Absolutely. Yeah, really good to see that character coming to life in the show. And again, being the creator of a gadget for the episode, and being involved in Team Good Guys. So we saw the first real meeting of all 4 members of Team Good Guys, with Jim, Alfred, Lucius, and Bruce in the same room. After Alfred berates Bruce for getting Selina involved in that, which we didn't really talk about in the episode, but a great moment when Alfred gets really angry with Bruce for, I don't really mind what you do, I'll back you in it, but getting a young girl involved in it, and pushing her into this situation where she's now been captured and her life is now threatened, is unacceptable. Really, really good. Enjoyed that.
Definitely. Natalie also goes on to say Jim obviously is elsewhere. He's been separated from Bruce and Lucius and is facing off against yet another of Hugo's victims. She goes, a budget-friendly version of Clayface. Hugo literally makes a mold of Jim's head and uses it on his rubber-faced minion to make Jim Gordon's doppelganger. Too bad there's only one episode. It may lead to a busy finale, Natalie goes on to say. But she does say, I do appreciate the stab at plausibility and realism, or at least some rules to Clayface and the rest of Strange's creations. Absolutely. I think they've really taken a good path for introducing Clayface and what he can do. I think at this stage you could maybe even say this is the first stab at Clayface. He has a different name, so maybe instead of Basil will die and we will get Boris. I don't know whether they intend on being the same person, but maybe this is the versions of some of these big villains for Batman, that this is version 1.0 of Clayface. And I think absolutely they've really I think got a nice balance here for Clayface. It's a character that could really have proven to be sort of difficult to introduce here, but I think they've made it plausible. Absolutely.
Yeah, definitely. No, totally agree with you. Thanks very much for that feedback, Natalie. Really good to hear from you. Our next email comes from Claire Payne, who was chatting with us on Twitter last night during our live tweet, but covers a lot of really good points in the email to us. She was talking about Fish Mooney and says, I feel for myself to remain neutral about the return of Fish Mooney. It was really good to see her back in this episode. I don't want to build myself up too much and be disappointed, but this is a big but. The Gotham writers have proved time and time again this season where the stories of the characters are going. I'm more than sure Fish will be around for season 3 and will have an excellent reason for her return. I'm hoping for an interesting interaction with Miss Peabody, and of course I'm sure she'll bump into Oswald and Butch. The Cuttlefish DNA was very different. By the way Fish touched people, she seemed to release a toxin to enable to control people. Change her food order so far.
Yeah, absolutely. I really hope she makes it through into season 3 as well, to be honest. I think this new rebooted Fish Mooney with echoes of her former life and her memories intact, I think it's a really interesting idea, and it would be fantastic to move her through into season 3. I think as well, she is the one thing that connects with the Court of Owls and Hugo Strange. So maybe she is a prize worth holding on to for these groups within the story. That may allow her to be, again, back in and central for season 3. I certainly hope so.
Absolutely. Let's just hope that Butch isn't carrying his brand new rocket launcher when he meets up with Fish again, because he might take her out if he's lost the love or if he's on Oswald's side. Claire goes on to say, Selena didn't get roasted by Firefly. Selena's interaction with Bridget from start to finish was fantastic, with a few attempts trying to get Bridget to remember their friendship. Unfortunate for Selena, all Firefly remembers is Brother Joe burned the best. With some clever, quick thinking, Selena becomes a servant to the goddess of fire. I really liked how they slightly changed Bridget's voice and have given her amber-coloured eyes.
Definitely. Bridget is a very much changed person looking at this. But it'd be interesting how Selena gets herself out of that one. Mm-hmm. But I'm sure she will, definitely.
Absolutely. As long as she's able to stay alive and keep herself alive, she'll definitely get out of these situations. Claire goes on to say, Bruce's day got worse, with Ivy asking him what's wrong with his face, and then being severely told off by Alfred for putting Selena in danger. Alfred shows his authority as his guardian in reminding Master B that Selena is still a girl that has shown him great loyalty. Alfred using the disappointed word really made Bruce understand what he asked Selena to do, and goodness knows what the consequences of his actions were. Yeah, absolutely. I think we've all been in that situation where our parents or a teacher has said to us, really disappointed in you, and it's the one moment where your heart kind of breaks when they say that to you for the first time.
The shatter of glass.
Exactly. It's just a sad little moment, but a great use of it there with Alfred. And Claire says, the Alfred-Bruce relationship has matured brilliantly. You can really feel their mutual respect for each other. Bruce was the core of so many great scenes in this episode. Professor Strange really showed his layers, not only proving he is a crazy scientist, but there is a layer of evil in using the words, your father's actions fired the bullet that killed him and your mother. Incredibly chilling. Good to see Lucius Fox joining in to see what is happening below Arkham. I really like the way he worked out it was Nigma playing sinister game show host. Also, little bits of technology are appearing, and he's in the know in what chemicals Strange must be using to bring people back from the dead. Yep, Captain Harvey Bullock is definitely proving himself as a really good captain. I like the way near the beginning of the episode he knew he just could not go and arrest Strange. He had no evidence. Seeing the officer all lined up at the end with Alfred was brilliant. Gotham really do put together great escape squads. Yeah, totally agree with that. Love Captain Harvey Bullock. I hope he's
really cool little scene.
I hope he's uncomfortably in that position for quite a long time. And finally, Claire says, I didn't expect to see 2 Jim Gordons by the end of the episode. Basil certainly had the stretchiest skin I've ever seen. Really clever how we saw the process of Basil's face become fake Jim. I really liked the way he repeated everything Jim said so you could copy his voice. I don't know a lot about Clayface. He's certainly interesting and very unusual. Yeah, Clayface in the comic books is really, you tend to find he's used as a bit of a twist. And I remember having a particular issue of one of the comic books that we were covering really early on, which kind of was ruined because of the appearance of Clayface, where there was supposed to be a big twist in a major character. And after a very long period of time in the comic book, probably, 6 or 7 issues, suddenly it was revealed that it was Clayface impersonating that character. And it was kind of one of those ones where Clayface, unfortunately, can be used really well in comic books because he can infiltrate places. He can be used, for those kind of moments, to kind of get into places he wouldn't necessarily be able to. Like in the show, they're going to be using him. But up front it's Clayface. But sometimes in comic books, it's kind of an easy way out. It's basically they go, oh, well, he's just being impersonated by Clayface. That's not the real character. They've done it a few times in the comic books before. So I'm happy that they're using it this way, that we're getting to see him transformed into Jim Gordon in the TV show. So Hopefully this isn't going to be one of these get out clauses that the Gotham writers are going to use to get themselves out of situations when they've written a character doing something differently. Suddenly they go, oh, it's Clayface. Don't worry about that last 2 years of what happened to that character. But thanks so much for that feedback, Claire. Really good to hear from you. Just one other point she makes is really looking forward to finding out more about the Court of Owls and the direction of this going into season 3.
Yeah, and Claire just says one thing I'm 100% positive on. I can't wait to see the season finale. And she also says to have a fantastic time in Blackpool. So thank you, Claire, very much for the feedback and for the best wishes for Blackpool. We certainly can't wait. And then I think we have some feedback from Facebook. Jason Wiley says, yeah, it's finally happening in respect of the Court of Owls. Way back when Bruce was talking to Silver and mentioned owls, you knew they would crop up down the line. And also Jason goes on to say, and the Talons are essential for season 3 if obviously the Court of Owls are going to be in play.
Yeah, definitely. I think Bruce was asked by Silver what his favorite animal is, and he says that it was an owl, which is the natural predator of the bat. So quite interesting to think that they probably won't remain his favorite his favorite animal in future after his encounters with owls. But maybe this is the reason why he might know how to beat them. Maybe he knows everything about owls, like you would if they were your favorite animal. So
that's true. That is true. Richard Blaze on Facebook says, I thought tonight's episode was great, loving how all the villains are coming together in Arkham. The scenes between Hugo and Bruce genuinely gave me shivers and made me shed a tear. They were that emotionally charged. Clayface looks like he could be interesting, especially if he parades around as Jim. I'm liking the fact that the Fish is back, and the appearance of the Court of Owls made me giddy with excitement. Setting them up well now can give them a big say in season 3, whilst linking them back to all that happened in season 1. Absolutely. Again, Court of Owls is something we have been peppering our podcast with, certainly with some of the references that have gone on. Really good to see what happens there. And I think, yeah, they must be the big bad in season 3. Certainly, the exchange between Strange and Bruce was just so powerful, so good. I mean, even hints of Hugo Strange being slightly sympathetic, actually, as well as just being evil incarnate. There's a bit of both there going on. And of course, Clayface will be interesting to see how he works out, definitely.
I suppose the good thing about Strange, and as we mentioned on the podcast, is that now he's becoming a villain that you can kind of get alongside. You know, he's just able to justify his own motivations, which is what makes a good villain always, is someone that believes they're in the right and they're doing the right thing. I like how they've written him in here. And yeah, I think right back to when we first met Danny Cannon back at New York Comic Con. On the first year we were at New York Comic Con, he was already teasing that we would eventually see the Court of Owls in the show. So that's 3 years ago now.
Yeah,
so,
exactly.
So this has always been on the plan. I'm really excited to see what happens, in season 3 with these characters. I don't expect to see much more of them next week, maybe another little brief moment with them, but hopefully we'll get to see a lot more in season 3. It's great to see the setup at least.
Yeah, they certainly could be the slow burn, a bit like with Enigma transforming into Dark Enigma and the Riddler.
Mm-hmm. And finally, we have some quick notes from Twitter from last night. A lot of discussion there, some from Richard Blaze and some from Claire Payne. But we also got some comments from Tom Calderon, who says, all outward appearances suggests Fish is well for someone who was just reanimated. Yeah, as I said, she must have been spending a bit of a weekend in the spa just before coming back.
Yeah, that stasis tank has done wonders for her.
Absolutely. Lisa McGuinness says, Ed looks like he's having way too much fun with Bruce and Lucius. Yeah, definitely. Totally, as Claire said, the crazy game show host. He's really, really enjoying that moment. And I think there's a lot of hints there of stuff that the Riddler does in future. Yeah, Claire Payne asks, does Professor Strange see his subjects as children? And Dawn replied, of course, he's the creator. They're his children, perfectly Frankenstein.
Yes, it has so many hints to Frankenstein. It's so good.
Absolutely.
Really good.
Yeah.
And Dawn also then goes on to say that grilled cheese sandwiches sure are the preferred food for Gotham villains. Yes. Tasty, yet slightly burnt around the edges.
Yes, but the Penguin and Fish Mooney now seem to love their cheese sandwiches.
Yeah, nothing better than a good old grilled cheese sarnie.
Mm-hmm. Oswald usually has them directly after a murder, though. Not so with Fish.
And I think with that, it is that's the end of the feedback.
Yeah, I think I'm running off to catch my flight now. Thanks so much for joining us for this episode. Really good to hear all the feedback that we've had over the last 21 episodes totally, but particularly for this episode, really good to hear from all of you.
Yeah, remember, you can listen to us on gothamtvpodcast.com/iTunes. You can listen to them even when you're in the air then. Once they're downloaded onto your phone, you can fly anywhere in the world listening to Gotham TV Podcast. Isn't that right, Derek?
It certainly is. Hopefully I'll see some of you in London and maybe even some other listeners up in Blackpool. It'll be really good to catch up with them.
Yeah, it would be great to have it would be great to meet some of our friends over in Blackpool for the Star Fury Ultimates convention. And so I think with that, it's for Derek to rush off in the taxi to catch his flight, and for me to say thank you so much for listening. As always, a pleasure. We will speak with you next time.
Absolutely. Talk to you next week.
Bye.
Thanks for being a Butch supporter. Butch loves you, baby.